moving on to baseball, was the right player for the Washington Nationals yesterday was Max Scherzer. We're chatting with C.J.Nitkowski, host of CBS Eye on Baseball, Saturdays 10 to noon Eastern. CJ, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Tiki. Good to talk with you, man.
Likewise. How amazing has Max Scherzer's last 40 games been? With 2 no-nos, he's had a 16 one-hit performance, 16K one-hit performance, 20 Ks last night against his former team. How do you explain him? Because statistically, you just go look at the stats, you're saying, no, he's having an okay year.
Yeah, his overall year this year actually has not been that great, and we saw a lot more solid contact so far early in 2016 than we were used to seeing with Max Scherzer. The stuff was always there. The velocity wasn't down, so you really weren't concerned. And it was interesting to watch as the rest of that starting rotation was pitching well, and he was actually scuffling a little bit. You knew he was going to come around. I think whenever you watch guys struggle a little bit, you're always looking to see, is there any diminished velocity? Are the breaking balls not the same? None of that had been the case with Max Scherzer. He's always been a high-intensity guy. He's always had great stuff. We're just seeing him right now in his prime. And you mentioned those last 40 starts and where he has been. It's been about refining his repertoire, getting it a little bit deeper. Still an emotional guy, but I think knows how to control those emotions a little bit more than he has in years past, and that certainly comes with age as well. But last night we kind of just all saw it come together and just watch him absolutely dominate. I mean, it's happened, I guess, 5 times in baseball. They technically don't count Randy Johnson's 20 strikeout performance because that game went extra innings, which is ridiculous. He still struck out 20 in 9 innings. But we've seen it now 5 times in Major League Baseball, and his was probably one of the most dominant because he used the least amount of pitches to do it.
Yeah, how hard is it to do this, CJ? Obviously, you pitch in the big leagues, and facing a guy the first time, you have 98-mile-an-hour fastball. You can blow it by him. You got a secondary pitch. It gets him off guard. But when you come around like 3 times and you're seeing the same guy who should be, and I put that in quotes, quote, should be fatigued, how difficult is this to do?
It's really tough, and obviously because of the amount of times that we've seen it done. I was actually at Roger Clemens' game. I pitched in that game when he did it in 1996 against us with the Detroit Tigers. He absolutely dominated. I was sitting in the bullpen in 1998 when Kerry Wood did it. I was a member of the Astros, and so I got to see 2 of them firsthand. Kerry Wood was still probably the most dominant in the sense that he only allowed 1 infield hit in that time. Obviously, that wasn't the case yesterday with Scherzer with a couple of hits that were allowed and then also the run. But it is tough. I mean, especially when you think about a guy like Miguel Cabrera. We were doing our show, MLB Whip Around on FS1. We were live during the first couple of innings, and we were kind of checking in. And I noted at the very end of the show, I said, he has struck out Miguel Cabrera on 6 pitches on his first 2 at-bats. That's pretty special thing to do. I mean, it's Miguel Cabrera. It's one thing when you're talking about Justin Upton, who's leading Major League Baseball in strikeouts. He swings and misses a ton. But to see what Max Scherzer did against his old teammate, in Miguel Cabrera in those first 2 at-bats, I'd mentioned he hit 8 strikeouts through 3 innings. I said, keep an eye on this. This could be the night. And sure enough, he comes through. But it's not an easy thing to do by any means. And even against that lineup, yes, there's some swings and misses in there. But striking out Miguel Cabrera 3 times in a game is something we don't see that often.
Yeah, no, you don't. But this Washington Nationals squad is kind of what we want to talk about in baseball right now, right? Dusty Baker's doing a heck of a job from the outside looking in. Bryce Harper, the Nationals, the Bryce Harper with his obviously suspension for MFing the referee as after the walk-off. I mean, how compelling is this National squad, and can they, I guess, ascend to where we thought they should have been last year, right? They underachieved significantly last year.
Last couple of years, really, for me. They've been such a great team on paper, but they just haven't put it together. And you phrased it perfectly. From the outside looking in, we're always trying to figure out what is going on. Why are guys not performing if your team is healthy for the most part? And they have been. They've missed some pieces, but they have been healthy. But when you watch that team and you even talk to some people, there always just seemed to be this missing X factor. And sometimes losing, as you know, losing brings out the worst in people sometimes. So if you're not winning, sometimes the personalities will struggle and maybe not be where you want them to be. But I think you're right on Dusty Baker. I think that's part of it, without a doubt. Mike Maddox also, the pitching coach that they brought in, has done an excellent job. That pitching staff has really excelled, and they're doing really well. So I think he certainly deserves some credit. But Bryce Harper has become such an interesting character, an important one, I think, for Major League Baseball because he's so outspoken. He plays the game with emotion. He wears those emotions on his sleeve. And so what we saw the other night with him cursing at an umpire was probably a little bit too much. And it happens, man. I'll never judge a guy for his emotion in the middle of a competition. I just won't because, but most people don't know what it's like to be in that moment. And when you're competing, the last thing you're thinking about is having good manners and being a good sport, man. You just want to win.
Yeah.
And so sometimes those emotions will boil over. Now, the only thing I will say, post-game, I would have liked to have seen Bryce Harper maybe back off a little bit and say, you know what, I got my emotions got the best of me. He didn't really do that. I think that's probably the better opportunity for him to set the example. He was kind of unapologetic about cursing at an umpire and it being caught on tape. And last thing for me, too, on that, I don't think he should have got the suspension. I think it's a fine. I don't think it's a suspension. He'll appeal it, and I have a feeling he'll get that overturned.
Yeah, well, I would think so as well because, look, lots of curse words, I'm sure, are said in baseball games. Just this one happened to be caught mouth red on television. C.J.Nitkowski, host of CBS Eye On Baseball. You also see him on the MLB Network. Are you surprised, as I think a lot of people are, on how underperforming the Houston Astros are? We thought last year was, maybe they're a year early, but they're here, and now they're going to continue to excel. They're 14-21 right now.
Yeah, it's been brutal. I had them going to the World Series this year. I figured a year of experience under their belt with all the talent that they have should turn into a really good season for them. I did one of their games a couple of weeks ago and had an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with A.J. Hinch and really kind of dig in on what's going on with their team. And one thing he mentioned, which I thought was interesting, they were having some starting pitcher issues. And he said the issue we run into a little bit, first of all, we got some guys scuffling. Dallas Keuchel has not been quite the same since coming off the Cy Young Award year last year. But he said we got a lot of similar starters. They don't throw very hard. They're actually one of the slowest starting staffs in all of Major League Baseball. And he said we got too many guys that are alike, and so we don't give enough different looks. And when you don't throw as hard and you're off with command, you put yourself in a really tough position. So that's been one issue with them. The other one is they rely heavily on the home run. And when you do that, you're going to be a team that will go through hot and cold streaks. And early on, they went through a pretty significant cold streak as far as the long ball went. They were not getting the run production that they expected. Now, the good news is Lance McCullers will be back. He gets activated tomorrow. He is the one power arm that they have, so they'll be able to put him in that rotation. And like I said, I think on the offense, it's just a matter of hot and cold, and everybody kind of went cold at the same time. But better days are coming, I think, here for the Astros.
Yeah, no, I would hope so. Carlos Correa is such a good-looking prospect, and Jose Altuve, man, he's my guy. Short little dude, but jacking 9 home runs, 22 RBIs on the year already. What about the Cubs? I mean, last year after they lost to the Mets, it was, well, next year we're going to be back. And it's dangerous to say that, right? It's like all things have to fall into place for you to get back and then obviously step over the plateau to the next level in the postseason. But this Cubs team, they are on fire. And you talk about a Cy Young winner not having a down next year. Jake Arrieta is just ridiculous.
Yeah, this guy has really been fun to watch and really kind of see what has happened with him ever since he left the Baltimore Orioles, because he was just a prospect with a great arm who couldn't get it done at the big league level, and there was a lot of inconsistency around him. But that is not the case anymore here with Jake Arrieta. They allowed him to kind of be himself a little bit more, go back to what he considered his normal mechanics. And when he was in Baltimore, they tried to make him a little bit more cookie cutter, and that just wasn't working. And so they let him throw across his body, and he already had the great stuff, and it just clicked for him. And now we get to see it, man. He's another guy who's just on all cylinders right now with just absolutely tremendous stuff, dominating, great confidence, everything that you need to be a legitimate ace. And he's been a lot of fun to watch. But the Cubs overall are a deep team. They've gotten off to a better start than I think anybody would have ever predicted, but they are a deep team. And they're going to be a very difficult team to deal with come postseason time.
How much money is Jake Arrieta going to make when it comes time for his contract? Because last thing I heard, he said, I'm not giving him a hometown discount.
Yeah, he wants it all, and so you see these huge numbers that get thrown around these days, and it's pretty difficult for guys not to want to cash in on that and take advantage of their opportunities. Now, the thing that Jake Arrieta has working against him is that he's currently 30 years old. He is another year after this one away from free agency. And so you talk about a guy going into his age 32 season. Now, how deep do you want to pay? All right, we see that contracts go bad as guys start to get in their mid-30s. So, if the Cubs wanted to buy next year, which is his last year of arbitration, and then start buying up free agent years, he's probably going to want at least 5 of those bought, maybe 6. And the kind of production that he is spitting out right now in the free agent market is $30 million a year or more.
Yeah.
Zach Greinke was at 34. So if they extended him by 5 years, you got to go at least 150, 160 plus whatever you're going to pay him next year. If you were going to try to do 6 years, for him, he has the argument that he should be above Steven Strasburg. So, 6 years at maybe 180 might get it done, but I don't know if he's willing to go there. And then there's the risk. The Cubs are willing to go there, and then there's just that risk of taking him so late into age 36 or 37.
Yeah, it's such a good feeling story, though. You kind of want him to be a part of whenever the Cubs finally break through, and hopefully in the next, I don't know, 5-6 years, when they win a championship, you just kind of want this guy to be a part of it. It would be a shame if business, but we all know it's business, gets in the way. CJ, I got to ask you this question because we saw something happen a couple days ago with Bartolo Colon. That it's great. It was awesome. They're making cards and they're making memorabilia about him finally hitting his first home run at 42 years old. But if you're James Shields, are you embarrassed here? Is this kind of the worst thing that's happened to you?
I think it was for him because he wasn't having it post game.
No, not at all.
Have fun. Like some guys were like, yeah, it was a cool moment, and ideally I didn't want to be on that side of it, but it is what it is. But no, at the end of the day, anytime you let up a hit to a pitcher, you're furious. You're just like, son of a gun. Like this is brutal. These are guys I have to get out. And then I've never had it, but I can't imagine a pitcher taking you deep. I know anytime a pitcher would even get a hard hit off me, I'd be really pissed. So, pitcher takes you deep in a game that you ultimately end up losing, even though James Shields had a couple of hits of his own that game. You're not going to be happy about it. It's just not going to happen. So it was a fun moment for fans, without a doubt, and everyone's running with it. And I saw a thing today where someone did a video mashup where they kind of used the natural and that video at the same time and made it all kind of flow together. And it was pretty funny. Bartolo Colon has become a cult hero, and not just in New York, but in Major League Baseball. But on James Shields' end, he was not entertained, and I think if he had an opportunity, he would absolutely want nothing to do with that if that was his choice.
What's your most embarrassing moment on the mound in the majors? Did you have one?
There's some bad ones, man, for sure. It's funny. I let up my very first big league home run to John Cangelosi, who played a really long time in the big leagues, but he had like 7 or 8 home runs in his entire career. He probably played like 15 years, and he was a little guy, and he was not known for his power. So things like that, you give up a home run to someone you probably should not have. Those will get you all the time. I mean, listen, you have bad performances, and those are one thing. But when an opponent beats you in a way that he probably should not, those you remember those sting just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. C.J.Nitkowski, host of CBS Eye On Baseball. One more question before I let you go. We were watching this. It's not really a farewell tour. It doesn't feel like it. From Big Papi up in Boston. David Ortiz, as he has his farewell season. He's actually playing well. Ultimately, how's he going to be viewed in baseball annals?
It's a good one. I mean, it's hard to say. I think the Hall of Fame stuff is going to come into play because of the PED allegations that were out there and the information that we do have. Now, he has been very defiant about that, and he doesn't want that to taint his legacy, and I don't think it will. I think we are getting to the point where we've been saturated with so many PED stories that people don't get as worked up about them, I think, as they used to, and especially the circumstances surrounding him specifically and what happened, over the course of what was supposed to be anonymous testing, and then it's leaked that he was a guy that tested positive, and you have to take that for what it's worth. But I think for him, he's a legend in Boston no matter what. I mean, everything that went on, how great of a player he was, and, of course, everything with the marathon bombings and how he has led a city in the past and the great personality, without a doubt. He will be revered in that town forever. I will say nationally in baseball, though, there may be, I don't want to say negativity, but there'll always be that kind of look at him and kind of being reminded of what happened with the PEDs. And we'll find out soon enough, but I think it's probably, unfortunately, going to affect his Hall of Fame change.
Yeah, that's a shame because he seems like such a great dude. I met him one time when I was up there doing a story, and he's just cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just down to earth, cool guy. People in the Dominican love him as well because he's so active back there. C.J.Nitkowski, appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely, Tiki. Anytime, man. Good to talk to you.
Have a good one. CBS Eye On Baseball. You can find C.J.Nitkowski also Saturdays 10 to noon Eastern